Hello, everybody, and welcome to, again, another very special best practices webinar, Building a Top Transportation Team, Part 2. So Part 1 was in September and was amazing. It featured half of the winners of the Top Transportation Teams Awards program. This is the second year that we have held this award. It's Transfinder inspired and led, and we've also had a great partnership with STN. And so we want to hear from the top team leaders, and they can tell us what it is they did to build such a great team, and also give a little bit of their secret sauce. I know that sometimes it's like, why would I give it away? Because I want to go for this award next year. Am I gonna give away my secret sauce? But you know what I have found as I've been in this industry for 11 years. I've been at Transfinder for 11 years. My name, by the way, Rick DeRico, Director of Public Relations. I just find it just incredibly, Trace, because you cross many school districts in Minnesota. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a very collaborative industry, is it not?
Yes, it is. Very,
People
very.
like. So this is just one of those things that I just find people like to share what works for them. And Transfinder, even on these best practices webinars, not everybody is always a Transfinder client, because we feel like, hey, somebody may have something that has worked for them, and we just want to curate as many of those great practices as we can. So that's the purpose of this today. So we're going to talk to top leaders. And by the way, I was thinking about, part 2. Sometimes you can think, oh, part 2, the sequel's never as good as the original. But that's not totally true. Godfather. Many people think The Godfather. I know if Tony was on today, he would say that Godfather Part 2, I think, was better than the first one. First one was great. So I think this one's going to, I don't want to say it's going to be better than the first one because they did an awesome job too, but it's going to be great. And we're going to have some new tips, and we're going to be covering some new ground as well that we couldn't even cover with the first panel discussion in September. A couple of things you need to know. This webinar and all of our webinars are recorded and are on our YouTube channel, and you can usually find them even before the day is over, which it's super fast. You can find our YouTube channel by going to transfinder.com, and the icon's at the very top of the page there. Number 2, this is very much an interactive webinar. They all are. And so you have a question for a specific panelist or all the panelists, go ahead and put it in that questions area. You want to share an insight that you've had that might be useful for us to discuss in terms of you having a great team, and here's something you have done, then we would love to hear that too, and we will go to you. I promise. The sooner we get questions, the quicker we will, include, as much content as we can from people who are in attendance. So without further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. We have Kevin DiPoalo from he's the director of the school district of Haverford Township in Pennsylvania. We have Trace Johnson, director of student routing and technologies at Palmer Bus Service in Minnesota. Services, bus services, service, bus service.
Just service.
Service. Okay, I got it right. We have Lisa Danskin. She's a transportation manager at Central Kitsap in Washington. So she's like across the country. And lastly, I am Rick DeRico. Again, I'm Director of Public Relations at Transfinder. I'm just going to start with, and again, feel free to ask questions as we go along. By the way, why don't you just tell those of you in attendance, tell us where you're coming from and maybe what the temperature is, because Tony always likes to know what the weather is like in your neck of the woods, as the meteorologists like to say. Kevin, tell us a little bit about you, your career path, in terms of, how long you've been at your district, or, how you got to your role, and a little bit about your district. Is it, urban, rural, and maybe how many students you transport?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Rick, that was a great reference with The Godfather. Obviously, the first webinar kind of set the bar pretty high, but we're looking to shatter that here today. So my name is Kevin DiPoalo. I'm the Director of Transportation for the School District of Haverford Township, which is roughly 20 miles in the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been serving in my current role as the director for about 3.5 years now. Prior to that, I was the dispatcher here at Haverford for almost 2 years, and then it was a smooth transition into the director role. I replaced someone that was here in the director's position for close to 40 years. So there was obviously a little bit of a change there that had to take place, you know, and the understanding that things have been one way for about 40 years, and then me coming on, you know, we really looked at what we could change with our culture, and just different ways through transportation, how we could help this department be better. Before coming to Haverford, I was the transportation coordinator at William Penn School District, also a suburb of Philadelphia. And I was really, you know, they were a contracted school district, so I was kind of the liaison between the school district and the contractor, which was First Student. Prior to that, I was in some security role at William Penn, and I was extremely fortunate at the time that the superintendent, you know, took a shot at me, felt I was going to be really good in the transportation and in school transportation, and that's really where I made the jump to transportation in my career. Just a real quick, a little bit about Haverford and our department here. We have just over 100 staff members. That includes administrative office personnel, school bus driver trainers, garage mechanics, bus assistants, and then of course, you know, our wonderful bus drivers. We are a district-owned fleet of 70 vehicles. 58 of them are currently alternative fuel-powered, propane-powered school buses. And our hope is to get out of the diesel school bus industry by this summer and replace our last 4 remaining diesel school buses. We transport to roughly 100 schools, 130 schools daily, and roughly 5,300 students within a 10-mile radius. And some of our special ed runs, of course, go outside of that 10-mile radius. So all that being said, I have about 8 years of experience in school transportation and 12 years of experience in the PA school system.
Great. Thanks so much, Kevin. You said a lot there. I want to come back on, like, following somebody of 40 years. That's got to be intimidating. It's also, you know, just a lot there I want to at least touch on. And then the other thing is just that person you mentioned who saw something in you and helped literally change the trajectory of your career path, it sounds like, and just the value of that type of leader and spotting those people in your midst who you can invest in their careers to go to that next level too. I always love those stories of amazing mentors who can literally just change someone's entire direction in life, you know. So that's kind of am I overstating that, or is that?
No, for sure. And I'm extremely fortunate still today to be able to reach out to the director who was here, obviously, before me, and anything I need to run by him. He's always willing to answer the phone and answer the call, and you know, give me any kind of guidance that I can use.
That's awesome. All right, Lisa, I'm going to go last to you to give you more time. And by the way, Lisa is filling in. She is done. We're just so excited to have her, and just so thankful for your just awesome stepping in. Trace, how about you? Give us a little bit about your pathway. You also had somebody kind of help steer you, I think, in that new direction with some of the changes taking place at Palmer.
Yes. So I am Trace Johnson, Director of Student Routing and Technology at Palmer Bus Service. We are based out of the state of Minnesota. Our headquarters, if you want to say, is in Mankato, Minnesota. It's approximately an hour and a half south of the Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin Cities area. I actually started working for the company in high school as a bus washer. So in a way, I've kind of climbed the ladder, if you want to say, up to the position I'm in now. My father worked for the company as well, and that's kind of how I got started. He's like, well, you're 16 and you're going to get a job. So that's what my first job was washing school buses. After graduating high school, you know, I went off to college. I actually also joined the Army National Guard, and, you know, had left the company for a few years. Kind of during that period, the owner and founder of the company had stepped down and handed over the company to his 2 daughters. The one, Jenna Fromm, is our CEO. And I was kind of in the area of life, figuring out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And she had called me and offered me a position back at Palmer Bus Service. and I had taken that role as a site manager, or excuse me, a site assistant manager for one of our locations, school districts that we serve. From there, I was eventually promoted to the manager of that location. Did that for just over 3 years, almost 4 years I was in that role. And then from there got into the role that I'm in now, which was actually a new position at our company that I had applied for, and I've been in since 2021. Our company, we service 28 school districts across the state of Minnesota. So north, south, east, and west. We're really all over the place. We actually just picked up 2 new contracts that brought us to 28 back this last February, March time period. So we're definitely growing as a company, not just as contracts with districts, but also just employee-wise. We have now over 100 employees amongst scattered around all those 28 locations. We serve multiple sizes of school districts. Our smallest school district, we have a total of 8 routes between regular ed, special needs, and the largest is 61 routes between the regular ed and special needs routes. And we transport just over 31,000 students amongst all those routes and districts that we serve.
Very good. Thanks so much, Trace.
Yes.
Lisa, tell us a bit about yourself and your district.
Hey, Central Kitsap School District, right here in the Olympic Peninsula, across from Seattle. Kind of a mixed urban rural area. Geography is one of our biggest challenges. The west side gets the snow and the east side gets none, and so it's little pockets of weather as we're nestled in between the Olympics and the Cascades. So
wow.
I came to CK about 20 years ago, started off as a paraeducator at a neighboring school district, and every time I took our students out to meet the special needs bus, I was like, how do I get your job? So came over to CK because it was closer to where I lived. Trained to be a bus driver, was a bus driver for 14 years, 15 years, very involved in the union. Had a lot of internal issues with people, right? So started a team with our admin for the district on how do we change our culture? How do we find us a spot where we want to come to work? Because people were just dreading the drama and the divisiveness. And part of the divisiveness for us was we had special needs drivers and regular gen ed drivers, and that kind of created 2 teams. So one of our first obstacles was to make one cohesive team. We're all drivers. And so how do we all stay on the same team? So worked hard to bargain to get us onto one list. That was a big win, which I think kind of started the ball rolling, and we had a lot of the money poured into our department to have speakers come in and kind of train us on culture and what work should look like. And I was always kind of an internal cheerleader for our team. I like people, I like celebrating, we like having fun. And so how did we make sure that everybody felt involved in the things that we did? So it started off with little things. 15 years later, I was asked to be the union president. Our district is all one, so I went to go do the union president for a 2-year stint, which is drivers, custodians, all the paras, about 1,500 of us. And
wow.
Within 6 months, COVID started, so that was huge because the one team that they laid off during COVID was our transportation team. So near and dear to my heart, I'm trying to lead our people through this terrible time. And I felt like I couldn't have been in a better spot because I knew we had the trust that I'd worked hard to earn with our team. So made it through, got everybody back, and then how do you rebuild the momentum going forward? So that's kind of been, that's been the challenge. And as you know, bus drivers, we raise up to every challenge, right? We're flexible, we're committed, and we're all the same family. So that's kind of how we do it here. The other thing I was going to say, when we were nominated, to have someone nominate us from inside of our team that was kind of newer to our building, she was only here a couple years, and thought, I've never worked someplace that is amazing as this.
Wow.
And so that was kind of like, oh, all these 10 years of doing all these committee works and working through the bargaining process and really working on internal stuff. And, you know, a couple retirees always help, but it's, I felt like it kind of validated the amount of hours and effort that we put into creating the culture that we get to thoroughly enjoy here every day. So.
That's awesome. That's a great entry. That sounds like a baptism by fire with the COVID scenario and some other things. You know, and it's also, you never know, like, what the, you know, all that effort, it's like, what's the last thing that actually is finally the straw that breaks the camel's back in a good way that makes the culture great, you know, and it's all those chips at, you know, at it until it finally breaks open, you know. So that's awesome to hear. I'm just going to open up with a really general question. But first, I want to highlight Candy is the only one that responded so far about where she is and her weather. But she was on a panel last week on smooth openings. So Candy, good to see you. And she's she's watching from Montana, where it's a cool 47 degrees, but blue sky and sunny skies. All right, thank you, Candy. So tell me just in general, and all of you should answer this, of course, pretty much all these questions is open for everybody. What makes your team so special? Just what's one trait or something that makes you, that you say, like, this is just a special team? And I'm just gonna start with Kevin, and then anybody else can jump in after that.
Yeah, I would say here at Haverford, the extreme amount of pride that each employee takes in working for our school district. We have a really close-knit group of bus drivers, bus assistants, who not only live local, but, you know, if they don't live within the township, they're relatively close to the township. They know all the ins and outs of our township. And the biggest thing is, you know, they love the students. They enjoy working with them, as well as some of the, you know, a lot of the staff members within our district. And they're all about the student success, right? And getting those kids to school safely. That way they have the most successful day and the most successful educational career that they have. But just that pride that they take in just showing up to work every day and, you know, doing their job, not having to be told or have management really harp on them. They know what they have to do and they get the job done.
That's great. That's awesome. Tracer, Lisa?
We have good people with good hearts. They take care of these kids like they're their own. We really focus on the word family. Really
I hear
good
that a
at
lot.
really good at helping each other out, and just taking the lead when they see somebody new. We just kind of all wrap our arms around them and get them success. We've all been there, so we just know how they feel, and I just feel like we all have each other's backs. And when you have that level of trust where you work, it just creates an amazing feeling of people that really care.
And then it's like going to work, you know, you actually look forward to going to work. You know, you actually, like, these are people I actually like. I like to be around, you know.
Well,
And then it also has that ripple effect of recruiting. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
And that's the part we can control, right? So we all know people come in with heavy burdens. We have no idea what people are going through personally, but if we can create a safe space here, we use it as a model for them to then go and create that same space on their bus for the students that get on. So if we all model it here and we all feel it here, then we hope it just trickles out to the buses and the students have the same feel.
Awesome. Trace, how about you?
Yeah, I would say for us, kind of comes down to the word help. It's one of our core values at our company. Whether that's a driver driving 2+ hours to go help drive a route at another school district, or maybe we're short. Maybe it's a manager that's been with Palmer Bus for 10 years, helping train in a newly hired manager for a site location. Whether it's someone like in my position that kind of works out of our corporate office. You know, there are times where even I have to step up and help drive a school bus route, or I'm out training boots on the ground with new staff so that they learn the Transfinder products, they learn our Zonar products. And so it really kind of comes down to that word of help, where no matter your role within Palmer Bus, whether it's a bus aide or, even up to the CEO, that we all step up and we help each other out as a team to really keep, the bus moving forward. So
that's great. I'll never forget our first, I should say I'll always remember. I remember reading Peggy Noonan's books. He was a speechwriter for President Reagan, and Reagan would never, he didn't like the "I'll never forget" because he goes, that's negative. I'll never forget. So he's always changed it to, he said he always put a line through it and wrote, "I'll always remember." So I'll always remember Transfinder's first annual client summit that I attended, and that was in Texas, and Tony rallies the troops, our CEO, Tony Civitella, and he said, if there's a job to be done, just do it, right? We all, there's, and everybody did that. I just saw it all the time, but it's like, if I'm done with a task, what else can you need me to do? I maybe just be running wire cords, plugging something in, whatever. And it's like, the expression you never heard was, "That's not my job," Obviously, in your line of work, you wouldn't want me driving a bus unless I had my CDL license, but you know what I mean? The idea of like, that's not what I'm hired to do. It's like, no, if there's something to be done, let's see it. And that sounds like you all are talking about teams that are like that. But Summer, by the way, she checked in from Asheville, Ohio. She's 11 degrees warmer than Candy at 58 degrees. Just want to keep that going. Lisa, I want to jump on something you said, because you're the first person that I think in almost any webinar I've ever had that talked about your district actually bringing in speakers and to talk to the team and to talk about culture and some tips on how to do that. So I just want to hear, number one, it sends a huge message, right? That your district is saying, like, we value you and we're investing in your development. So that's cool. And then just maybe if you want to share, if there's anything that stands out to you, maybe a tip or two of maybe what you can recall of a culture building tip.
It did speak volumes of our district. It put their money where their mouth was, saying we value you and we care. So pretty proud of that. Courageous conversations was one of the biggest ones. Just learning how to politely, have conversations that are usually tough with other people. And then we did the True Colors test too, which kind of showed a little bit about people's personalities and kind of gave some deeper insight to why they might respond the way they do. So it kind of just broke down some of those barriers of, oh, that's just how they're wired. It's not an excuse, but it kind of lets you know where they're coming from. Their intentions weren't as harmful as they felt. But I think those two topics that we did, and yeah, we did like a 6-week series where somebody would come in and just kind of break down those barriers, and people kind of had a safe place to share how they felt.
That's awesome. Trace, you're nodding your head because yesterday during our dry run, Lisa wasn't on that yesterday. You said you're a green, which I didn't ask you what that meant exactly. I think you're talking about the same thing, right? That was a leadership, that was a personality type, right?
Yeah. Our company.
What does that mean exactly? And then tell us what your leadership style is.
Yeah. Our company's also brought in, guest speakers, thankfully to, talk to us and different things. And one year, our CEO brought in, I don't remember the exact name of the company, so I do apologize, but they gear, their topics around personality traits, whether those are inside of work and also outside of work. And I fell into a green category. So there's 4 colors. You got green, yellow, blue, and red. So red are more of those, like, you say how it is, you get the job done, and that's it. Blue are more like analytical thinkers, like more usually typically maybe like a financial person. They care about the numbers. Yellow is very just happy people. They're bubbly. They want to make everyone smile. And green kind of falls in almost between like a yellow and a blue. We are happy go-getters, but we also want to make sure that we're getting the work done and the numbers add up and are correct. So I fell in that green category of, really just making sure that, when I'm working with folks that they feel comfortable around me, that I'm giving them, the best effort that I can possibly give. So that, if I'm training them because they're a new person that needs to learn the Transfinder software, that when I leave the office that day, that they feel super comfortable getting in there, doing the routing, looking up students, whatever they may need to do.
That's great. Well, I just want to let you know, I haven't mentioned McKaylee, but she is running the back end. She handles all of our social media, Transfinder. I mean, I share a little bit with her, but if you like the way the social media looks, it's McKaylee that you can thank. We're gonna have a poll question coming up soon. Kevin, I'm gonna go to you to ask your style, just so you can be ready for my toss to you. But just so you know what the actual answers, like what these words actually mean in the survey question. It's what's the leadership style that you see in your department. So whether it's you, so how would you maybe describe your own leadership style? And if you're maybe you're a router or a driver and you're watching this, and we thank you that you are attending today, how would you describe the leadership in your transportation department? So there's authoritarian. I'm not going to read all these. I'll just go real quickly, but they have most of the decision-making power. Participative is more, wanting input from everybody. Laissez-faire, delegative, not really micromanaging. They're strong proponents of autonomy, flexibility. Hey, you kind of own your job, and a little more flexibility there. Transactional, emphasis on organization. That's managerial. Supervision, compliance. They also use rewards and penalties to motivate. So that's considered transactional or managerial. And then lastly, transformational, visionary. So they're focused on everybody buying in on a vision, uniting a group, probably larger than life personality in some ways, but they don't necessarily focus on the short-term goals. So that's that. Every one of these can have pros and cons. Obviously, we all have different skill sets. So McKaylee, if you don't mind, we could launch the poll, and I'm going to ask you, Kevin, to do two things actually. If you could describe, did you work under the person that was there 40 years prior to you?
I did. Yes.
Okay,
I did.
so maybe you could, if you don't, describe maybe what his style is, how he would fall into this category, and then where do you fall into this category? So for those again taking this survey, please just pick out one of these. What is the transportation department's leadership where you are? Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so I would have to say our previous director was more authoritarian, where I am kind of more participative, because I like to take that collaborative approach in everything and running things by, not only our administrators and our office staff, but really getting that feedback from the drivers and the bus assistants, being able to be available. And making sure that everyone knows that I have an open door policy, let them have their voice and be heard, and then be able to, have that employee engagement where not only, they have to adapt and be willing to embrace change, but I also have to adapt and be willing to embrace change with some of their feedback, right? There's obviously different ways that things can get done. And if we have that collaborative approach, then it just makes it easier for everyone. They feel like their opinion is valued, and it seems to work for us.
That's great. Trace, I'm going to throw a little curveball to you. You work with a lot of districts. So in your kind of interactions with your clients that are throughout Minnesota, do you see one style that kind of stands out among them, or are they pretty evenly split among the five or a couple of those? What's your sense of leadership style?
Yeah, each district is very, very different on kind of their needs that they want from us. So kind of picking a category to put a hole on that aspect, I don't think I could do that. For myself, I would agree with Kevin. I'm probably a little bit more participative. I definitely like to collaborate with other folks and figure out what are the best options to get a problem solved, or whether you're working on a project. But when I'm meeting with districts, it's definitely making sure that you're almost managerial, if you want to say, of like, hey, here's how these softwares that we are bringing in as a company can really promote a hopefully better work environment, safety at our job sites, and make hopefully everyone's jobs easier because they can do X, Y, and Z. So I would maybe take that approach when I'm actually sitting down with our school districts, but when I'm working internally with our own staff, I'd say more participative.
Great. And I'm going to ask attendees if you want to punch in your thoughts on your own leader. I know you took the survey, but just I can see your response. If you want to add anything or have a question, please feel free to do that. Love to see what you have to say. So, McKaylee, let's see the survey results on this, if you don't mind. All right. So, number one is participative. And then we got a tie. Nope. Well, before we get that, we have transformational, so more of the visionary. And I do see that with the top transportation teams, especially some of those leaders we've had over the last 2 years are kind of the big vision. Let's unite everybody and rally them around this big thing, because maybe we're shifting our culture, and so that's the focus. And then we got a tie here with delegative and authoritarian, and then lastly transactional, more in the managerial. Thank you, McKaylee. So good stuff there. So tell me, is there any approaches that you have taken or you have witnessed or you have heard that maybe didn't work? So when you're talking about building a culture, well, maybe on the positive side, Lisa mentioned, and then I want to hear about maybe what hasn't worked, because we tried this, it didn't work. It's okay to talk about what didn't work or what you had to tweak. But Lisa already mentioned bringing in an outside speaker. Tracy mentioned that as well. What other things? So people who are watching this, who they want to go back to their offices and say, I just need to shake something up. I need to have an idea. I feel like our culture is kind of wavering. We're stuck a little bit. Any suggestions of what you can do to build a culture that may be stuck?
So if you don't mind, if I take this one real quick, one of the things that I had noticed is, and obviously being here after someone who was here for 40 years, trying to change the culture too soon, right? And having it too new without some of that guidance and support and that feedback from the drivers, from the aides, from the mechanics. I wanted to jump in and I wanted, all right, I want to change this, 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 and this. And the reality is I couldn't do that overnight. And I shouldn't have tried to do that, overnight. I needed that feedback. I needed to get their understanding. And that kind of went a long way for us as a department to build that culture and not have it happen, boom, right away, let's change this. Reality is, let's work on changing it over a longer period of time. It seemed to work pretty well for us.
That's good, because it's a cliche, right? Nobody likes change, except maybe if they have something specific that they would like to have changed. But in general, when it feels like it's coming down from on high, so to speak. Lisa, you're shaking your head.
Mine was interesting because after the presidency, we had our manager leave. And so when I came in to make sure our team was okay, they were like, hey, are you applying for this job? And I was like, nope, never. Just driving the bus. I will never work in the office. And then throughout my relationships in the hair, they're like, you're the one, you're the one. I'm like, I'm not the one. I promise I'm not the one. It's a 12-month job. I don't want it. I'm bossy, but I don't want to be the boss. And so luckily our director and I have a great relationship. He's the visionary one. I'm the people one. So making sure that I didn't be like, wasn't quick to say, I hate this, let's change it quick, because I also knew the team of people that I had worked with for the past 15 years and their style. So that was a huge plus for me to come in and kind of know, yeah, you just can't come in with new stuff. You got to massage it in carefully. So
very good.
That was a cool bonus for me.
That's very good. Yeah, I've worked at some places, not at Transfinder. I used to be a newspaper reporter, and sometimes you get a new person in and they kind of want to make their stamp early on. So it kind of becomes a little bit more about them a little bit as I look back retroactively on that. And the idea, sometimes you hear about those listening tours that people do, kind of be a nice idea, because it's like they're getting feedback before they go in and say what they perceive to be important. Maybe something else is more important. So that's good. Lisa, I think what you said earlier, again, another first for me, was hearing about like a special ed driver team and a regular ed driver team, and you can just see the potential. It seems obvious, but maybe not. And so you guys worked on a fundamental thing before, maybe focusing on some other things that were not quite yet of that importance. So, Trace, how about you?
Yeah, I think our kind of whole company is geared around our 5 core values: safety, integrity, dignity, community, and help. And that's something that our CEO, kind of like her first day on the job, set in place. And kind of the descriptions of each of those, of how they play into the company, maybe have changed over the years, but we still use those kind of 5 words. For example, one of the things that we used to do as a company was, every year you'd get your bonus. Well, it was just an expectation that you got your bonus no matter how good of a job you did, or maybe how bad of a job you did. So something that we did, I think it was maybe a year or 2 ago, is the company actually got rid of bonuses and made a larger pay increase scale. So, if you didn't do the job that you were supposed to do, or it was really bad, maybe you get a very low percentage increase compared to an employee who really stepped up. They went that extra mile and did the work, went above and beyond, and even helped out in other areas, and they get a larger pay increase. So we've definitely seen a difference in work ethic based on that. So that's definitely helped us, and we've added a lot of different things over the years that maybe don't always work, or maybe need to be adjusted. And then some things you add and you just build on because they work really well. So yeah.
That's great. So kind of piggybacking a little bit on that, Trace, what do you think are the key areas that mean the most to your team members? So, obviously Transfinder is a technology company, and we do, a little pitch here, but we do make the best software, hardware, and safety technology. That's not us boasting. That's based on industry vote, by an industry vote at STN. But in terms of like, there's a new technology, what kinds of things do you think your team values? Is it the pay? Is it obviously culture, leadership style? We just talked a little bit about technology and resources in general. Do they feel like, like if you were going to say like, what are some, I know it's hard to pinpoint on any one of those, but like, what would you say like their number 1 or number 2, most highest priority? Like, I don't feel like I get the resources I need. So I'm not, maybe I'm not routing with the greatest software. I have no software. That sends a message too, that we're not going to invest in you having the proper tools. So any idea how you think your team would respond to that idea of most important? And maybe you saw it from the survey results, because now you all have the survey results. The part 1 group didn't have that. So you guys can actually share a little bit about, how your team valued those areas. Pay, culture, leadership, technology, resources, other.
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on the results. Yes, safety was definitely one of the highest things that we got as our overall score. So, I think again that comes down to making sure we're hiring the correct people, the right people to just get behind the wheel of the bus and be able to drive the students. It's implementing definitely technology. What technologies are out there to make the job essentially, easier, but to do it more safely and effective. So yeah, we use Zonar as a way to help track our buses. Making sure drivers aren't speeding and that they're maybe not excessively idling. And then we use Transfinder, Route Finder. Where are all the students located within a district that we serve, and how can we best route those students, so that they're not on the bus for super long amount of time. Are they, are majority of them getting picked up right-hand side, or is it left-hand side? And what can we do to maybe adjust it so fewer students are having to cross the streets? So all those things, implementing that technology. Sometimes it can definitely be hard to implement a process, a new change, especially with technology, because it's learning it. And it takes time to learn it. And there are people that are less tech savvy than others. So for them, sometimes they're like, well, I just like doing the paper pencil. So it's like, well, yes, maybe you just know how to do it that way, but here's how the technology can make it easier once you actually learn how to use the software. Another thing that we were voted on pretty highly was that everyone feels that they're treated fairly and part of the team. So whether, you're a bus aide or you're working more on a higher scale level, but that you feel fairly treated by the employer, by your employees, and that everyone's kind of part of the team and contributing to make sure that we are getting kids safely to school and from school.
Oh, that's great. That's a lot there. Thank you, Trace. Lisa, how about
Yeah,
you? Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
if I could just piggyback off of Trace, some of the results that we got were that they were paid fairly and they were treated fairly, which was obviously good to see, and that goes a long way with, I think, also building that culture, and having those employees buy in, as well as, wanting to reach out to their neighbor and say, hey, why don't you join our organization and come here to Haverford, be a bus assistant, be a bus driver. That went a long way, and I think it was really good to be able to see those results from the survey and take a look at what we could work on, what's working right now or what needs a little bit of work, and we could take that as a team and just raise the bar that much more.
Oh, that's great. Lisa?
Yeah, we do that survey, and then we do our own CK survey that kind of gives us where can we improve. Bottom line, people always love money, right? But we also know that with all the raises that we've been able to give these last 10 years, it doesn't fix all of the problems. So having the resources to set people up for success, whether it's a substitute driver going out, clicking on Wayfinder, finding their way. My sister lives in Missouri, and she called me and was like, you're not going to believe it. These bus drivers have paper directions and they just put it under their leg. And I'm like, I believe it, because we do the same thing, and now we have Wayfinder, which has helped minimize that part. But it was so funny to think that she could not believe
What district is she at, by the way? Let me write that down.
She lives in Springfield, Missouri. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
But it was funny to think that we've come a long way just in these past 20 years. And we've been with Transfinder for quite some time now. And now we're about to rip the Band-Aid off Stop Finder. So I'm super excited about that. And so having that, even from the office side, through the drivers, the bus assistants, is going to be, I think, huge. And our community is going to be hopefully loving it. So.
Oh, that's good stuff. Kevin, you're shaking your head, so I'm going to go to you. What are you shaking your head about?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, everything that Route Finder has given us as far as route efficiency has gone so far for our drivers, and the cleanliness of the trips compared to, the routing software that we had previously. Like our drivers are able to look at it and make sense of it and understand it, right? And that just makes their job that much easier.
That's great. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I did think we talked a little bit briefly. I mentioned it yesterday during our drive run. I just did a profile on a guy named Mitch Honey, who is a shop foreman who they're using Transfinder's Service Finder product, which is fleet maintenance and inventory management. And he looked at everything and that was out there, and then he decided to go with us. The district uses us for routing and other solutions, and he actually said that he comes into work at 6 a.m. and he's able to leave by 2:30 and get to his young family. He has a young daughter who's like 7 months old now. And so we talk about, the idea that when Lisa, you're talking about, quality of life as well, like if you don't have the right solutions, that does have a trickle effect or ripple effect, that it's like, so now I have to stay late. Now I'm staying late. Now I might miss my kid's baseball game because, I have to get this done before tomorrow or something like that. So those tools, it's not just having tools, but it's also how does that literally impact a human being's actual quality of life? Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about, are there, since you guys have all won, again, this was the most competitive year with the Top Transportation Teams Award. So second year, obviously the word got out even more. We had way more participants. We had more enrollees, and we also had more districts employees fill out the survey. So everything was just multiplied significantly. So you guys are literally the creme de la creme. I gotta tell you, it was not easy to get where you are. So how was that received in your community? Is there anything your district has done to celebrate it? How has it been perceived just within your team in terms of like a badge of honor? And is there something you can utilize to recruit? Say, hey, do you want to? There's only 6, 7. We got 6 top teams and an honorable mention. We won't mention which one in the panel is that. I'm just teasing. But seriously, all 7 high bar. How's it been received, and how have you been able to utilize it? I'm going to start with you, Lisa, and then Trace and Kevin can maybe follow up about the reception.
I think people were really excited to receive the award, and at a national level, to be a little school district up in Western Washington. Our board had us come and highlight us at a board meeting for it. And then we always have been a very proud district, whether it's deserved or not, but in our area, we take pride and we're the ones that set the bar. So people are like, oh, CK did that. Now we have to do that. Or they did hiring incentives. Now we have to do it. So we've always been trying to be the leaders in our area. So then to be recognized nationally, I think it just kind of brought a bigger picture to our team. Hey, we're doing this and we look good in our area, but we're also being recognized nationwide for the work that we do and trying to keep our bar so high and our expectations high. So.
Excellent. Trace?
Yeah, a little bit different situation for us with serving multiple school districts, but we started out, as a company, doing a press release, getting that out to news outlets. We posted it, on our own website. We posted it on our social media websites, and we actually have social media kind of per school district that we work with. So, just getting it out to the community more or less. We did, share the news with our school districts that we work with. Some of them, they reshared that information. They asked us to sit down for interviews so that we could kind of just talk about a little bit more. With others, maybe unfortunately they didn't do as much. Maybe they just put it on their Facebook page, just so that, they say that they kind of helped us get it out there. But either way, just having that recognition, whether it was, a small amount or a huge amount, definitely makes us feel good. Getting it from Transfinder, knowing that, yeah, this is I believe it was North America, award, that, as a company that we are doing something really great, and we're providing the best service that we possibly can to the districts that we, serve. So it was definitely
anonymous.
a high honor.
Yeah, and anonymous surveys, so this is something that, they could really be really brutally honest. And you saw the survey results, and you guys probably didn't have any of these, but I'm sure there are some who received those results. He said, ooh, we didn't score so well there. And you know what? That's okay, because now you have that information, Maybe, communication is such a big part. Maybe things haven't translated well or whatever. So, the goal is, even if you didn't win, you still win. You still win because you can come around this cause of like, we want to do better next year. And then how can you fix some of the low-hanging fruit? Maybe it's just sometimes it's just a low-hanging fruit of, can we have a table in the lunchroom? That table is all broken down. It could be little things that can still, we're putting in a new table and a new microwave and a fancy coffee machine. Just that can send a message that's like, okay, you heard from our survey results, So Kevin, how about you?
So I think I wish it was something that we pushed more throughout the community, you know, and let the community know of how great it was that we won this prestigious award. We certainly had a tremendous, you know, applause at our back to school meeting from our transportation department staff in mid-August when I told them that we won the award and showed them the trophy. Um, you know, our superintendent, who has always been great to us, she was so happy that we won the award, as well as our school board. But I do wish that we actually got it out there more, where the community knew, you know, hey, like our transportation department was one of the top transportation departments in North America. And that speaks a lot for, you know, a district that's not a massive school district, but, you know, a decent sized school district. And then, of course, in getting those survey results, you know, the way I looked at it is, and I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, but I looked at it where, from the Kansas City Chiefs perspective, where they're back-to-back champions, right? And what am I going to do? And what can I do? And what can our team do to become, you know, and win this prestigious award again next year, right? Like, let's not just sit back and be happy that we won the award this year. Let's look at those survey results and understand, like, all right, you know, we may not have excelled in certain areas, and what can we do to be better in those certain areas? So, you know, my hope is that we continue to grow through this school year, correct some of the things that we can correct, and move on and reset that bar.
That's awesome. And I want to tell you, and we can talk offline. I'm happy that we did send press releases to every market specific. So if there was like 3 newspapers or television stations, we did send it with your quote, Kevin. But you have to sometimes, like, I used to be a reporter. I know you have to pester these people, right?
Yeah,
But you're
for
going for
sure.
number 2 now. So when the enrollment period opens, you know, I think there's another crack at the apple to say that your district is going for number 2. And, you know, so, you know, maybe we can talk offline if I can be of any assistance at all to help. You know, we have pictures of you at Reno. You got the logo and all those kind of things. So we can make it pretty easy for the reporters to cover it. But we want you all to get that coverage. We really do, because you deserved it. So that, and you know, I think Kevin kind of touches on this a little bit. You know, goals for the future. So what do you want to do within your teams that help you get even better? Are there some things that come to mind that say, you know, this is something that we were okay last year, but we definitely have a room for improvement? Is there anything specific that, like, attendees who are watching, are there things in your district? Go ahead and I'll drop them in here. That you know that you can, maybe you're okay and you want to get better, or maybe it's something that is significant that has to get better. I'm going to just start with you, Kevin, since we're left. I'm going to go back the other way. Kevin, Lisa, and then Tracy. Trace, I'm sorry. Things that you want to do better in this coming year.
So I think the first thing is, I want to make sure that all our staff have the tools that they need to do the job, right? I think that goes a long way, where, you know, if I'm not giving them those tools, right, and they don't have the best of the best, or if we don't have Wayfinder, you know, what can I do to help them be successful? And obviously, you know, transport those students successfully. So I think that's huge for us as a district is, you know, let's look at what we have, what we need, and go from there to make sure that all of our staff has the tools that they need to do the job.
That's great. Awesome. Lisa?
I'm just shooting this year for just more participation in some of our committees that we have. Just increases the buy-in to our core team, and then it just creates those relationships off the bus, just with your coworkers. So just really encouraged everybody to jump on, whether it's the safety committee, the social committee, we have a shared decision committee, just getting one more step than just the bus. I think it just buys some more ownership to what our department brings. So just trying to get people to more than just be on a bus. So
Those are 2 good words you said, especially buy-in and ownership. You know, once you have that, then it's personal, right? You know, then you really are all in. And that goes to that one leadership quality, I think, not an easy word to say, but delegative, right? You're delegating. and you're actually having some people who maybe have some autonomy to that goal, you know? So I like that. Trace, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of two different things. The first is, for the technology that we have, making sure that the employees know how to use it, that they're using it to its fullest capability, that they're comfortable using it. So whether that's providing them extra tools that they may need, additional training that I may need to do with them, just so that day to day that the softwares and the technologies that we pay for are getting used, but that it is benefiting them. So that it makes their jobs easier at the end of the day, so that maybe they can be done at 2 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock. So the second part of that is, what technologies do we not have yet as a company? What does Transfinder also out there that you guys can offer, and even other vendors like Zonar or camera systems that maybe we can look into as a company to keep growing that technology. It's the way the world is moving. And be able to provide that so that our employees can do their jobs effectively, and then at the end of the day just provide the safest transportation we can.
Outstanding. I'm going to read something, but I'm going to give you something to think about. We're wrapping up. We've got 3 minutes. Lisa, it wasn't that bad, was it? It goes by fast, doesn't it?
You did.
One takeaway that you want people who are watching this can bring back to their office, maybe bring back to their supervisor, bring back to their superintendent, whatever it may be. I want to read something from Stephanie, though, who kind of reiterates a little bit of what you're saying. She would love it if they would get with 2024 and get rid of routes on paper. It's hard to read a paper and drive, especially in winter when it's dark. Software on buses to scan when students get on. That's attendance, big deal. So good stuff, Stephanie. Thank you so much for jumping in on that. So lastly, takeaways. What's one, and it's quick takeaway. I'll start with you, Trace, go to Lisa and Kevin, and then I'll close this out.
I'd say the biggest takeaway for everyone out there is don't give up on pushing the technology. I have dealt with employees that they're just kind of stuck in their ways, but eventually they do come around and start utilizing the softwares that are available to them. And maybe it's learning different ways to approach that employee to explain to them the benefits of it, that it's not just something that we paid for and we want you to use, but what can it actually do for you.
Very good. Make it personal. Lisa.
Takeaway. Stay approachable and listen. Your people will come to you and have really good ideas. And I will always say, whether I was in the driver's seat or in the manager's seat, the people on the road typically know what you need. So just providing avenues for them to have their input. And as you explore maybe new options, get a team together to kind of look at it and weigh it in, because you sell it to a few internally and then the whole team will end up on board. So I think you start with your internal leaders and work your way out.
Very good. I like that. Kevin?
And I would say to invest in inclusion and belonging, right? Be a great listener, first and foremost. Understand that all staff are unique and they may bring a different perspective on all things transportation related. Be willing to think outside of the box, and that'll go a long way with all your transportation teams.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. So we are always looking for new panelists, new stories. Michaela, if you can go to the next slide. We may do a white paper on you. We may, tap you for a future story or profile. So just email mystory@transfinder.com and we will definitely be in touch with you, because we want to hear your story and how we all can learn from your experience. Everybody has something to contribute. I really believe that. And if you go to the next slide, the next webinar is on November 21st. Yes, it's a week before Thanksgiving. So it's Thursday. And I think we're going to have kind of a Thanksgiving kind of focus, something you're thankful for, something we still want to be instructive. We still want to learn something from it. But I'm kind of like, as I was thinking about, I'm like, you know, we have a lot to be thankful for. You know, Lisa talked about that COVID era. Man, don't we, isn't it just, we have a lot to be thankful for. As I look back, and even just walking into Home Depot, I'm like, I remember when I couldn't walk into Home Depot, when they were only letting 50 people in at a time, 50 people in all of Home Depot, you know, so just being thankful to be able to walk into Home Depot. So we have a lot to be thankful for, and, you know, how we can, you know, turn that into a really good webinar as well that could be instructional. So without further ado, I just want to first of all thank our panelists for taking up your, you know, I know you are very busy, so giving up some of your time to join us today and share your insights. I want to thank our attendees as well and for contributing. And I look forward to seeing everybody next month. Until then, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.